Has been established multiple times. There was no definitive firsthand evidence presented at the impeachment hearing. No new facts were introduced that weren't already entered into the record. That did not stop the theatrics of the Republicans, and it did not stop members of the committee from pretending they had evidence like that. Most notably, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds.
Next slide, please. For my colleagues on the other side, we're going to start talking evidence now. Oh, this is a fun one. Ladies and gentlemen, this one is from 2018. This is about 4 months before Joe Biden launched his campaign for president of the United States, December 2018. The highlight is, this is a text message between Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden was in a bad way, by the way. He was really strung out. He lost a bunch of money. He needed help. Jim Biden says, "This can work. You need a safe harbor. I can work with your father alone." It'll probably take several months and everybody can read the text.
Now, again, none of that's actual evidence of an impeachable offense by President Joe Biden. But the real issue with that presentation is the congressman from Florida apparently brought in fabricated Photoshop slides of text messages as his supposed evidence, which eliminated the actual context and was incredibly deceptive. And he was subsequently called out on it in the hearing by his colleague, New York Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Earlier today, one of our colleagues, a gentleman from Florida, presented up on this screen something that appeared to be a screenshot of a text message containing or insinuating an explosive allegation. That screenshot of what appeared to be a text message was a fabricated image. It was a fabricated image. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was the staff of the committee, but it was not the actual direct screenshot from that phone. And in fact, I would like to submit to the committee the actual full context from the Ziegler Affidavit number 1, Exhibit 402, of the full text of that exchange. Do I have permission from the chair? Importantly, what was brought out from that fabricated image excluded critical context that changed the underlying meaning and allegation that was presented up on that screen by this committee and by members of this committee.
It's good to have you there, Congresswoman. This is a really striking moment. There was a much larger part of the text that sort of altered what that conversation about getting a job was really about. How did you catch that, and what does it say that that's the evidence they're using in their first impeachment inquiry?
Well, I think this just speaks to the tremendous amount of teamwork that we've been able to accomplish on the House Oversight Committee. Of course, it's an honor to be the vice-ranking member under Congressman Jamie Raskin, who we just heard from. And I think the leadership and the collaboration in that committee, and also the depth and dedication of work, people have been poring over these documents, at least those documents that House Republicans are even divulging before and sharing with the public before the hearing. But I think immediately when this screenshot was raised, first, this was not something that had been seen before, but vaguely had seemed familiar. I think we had our committee staff really tearing through every possible document to try to piece together how this possibly even came to be. And I think we were finally able to match up in real time what the actual context was, as opposed to what Congressman Byron Donalds chose to put on that screen. And it really cannot be understated how deceptive that was to take critical messages out of context, to tear apart the context that they're in, and then to Photoshop a text message bubble to make it look like it's reconstructed back on a phone. And this is supposed to be the Republican case for impeachment? I mean, at this point, we should be investigating the investigation for the ethical conduct that is happening on the Republican side of the aisle. And I think, frankly, the Republican Party knew that this was cooked and done from the beginning. Their star witnesses that they called in today said in their opening statements that there is not evidence to support articles of impeachment against the President of the United States. And so this was done from the start. I am quite not really sure why they decided to embarrass themselves in this manner today. But it was evident. You could feel it. It was palpable in the hearing room. You saw Byron Donalds there in that split screen. He himself was embarrassed, slouching in his chair. I don't know what was quite going through their minds.
Yeah, the ranking member Jamie Raskin just said that they were leaving the committee room. I mean, this was their big show, right? This was the big set piece. This was the unveiling of the thing that they have building up to since they took the House, honestly. And it seemed like they didn't even really have the heart to see it through during the actual hearing today.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's important to also underscore the significance of leaving the hearing room in such a consequential hearing. For example, when we had our questioning of Michael Cohen or other very high-profile witnesses, it is very well understood that in such a consequential hearing, your opposition is going to use every point of leverage possible. And you have to stay in those seats because in procedural votes, for example, we tried to vote on issuing subpoenas to actual firsthand witnesses like Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani into the kind of odd progeny of where this story even began in the first place. And we were winning those votes. They had to scramble and call back members and delay. And so you really, in consequential hearings, it is hearing 101 that all members need to be in their seats to prepare for any affront from the opposition.
That's a really interesting point, and they still didn't. They couldn't. I mean, which sort of segues to the larger breakdown of discipline here that's happening in the entire House. We're here 2 days away from a shutdown. I mean, I think again, it's unclear what they really want, but you know, they're floating these insane cuts to Title I, which is the huge federal education program for low-income districts. Cuts to WIC, which is for women with infant children. There's a bunch of people who aren't going to get paid. I don't really know if they know what their demands are. It's these big spending cuts, but even those they can't quite stomach. Do you have an understanding of what the ask here is, I guess?
I think there's an enormous amount of speculation as to the motives of this Republican infighting. And as you said, the stakes are very, very high. And for some folks that might say, oh, these federal employees may be getting back pay. Many will, but there are many people who are working who will not get back pay, including employees of federal contractors. Even in the House Capitol itself, the cafeteria workers are contract workers. And these workers are terrified because they may not get back pay. And these are some of the most vulnerable workers that we see. You're making just a couple bucks an hour. You cannot afford to miss a paycheck, let alone get one late, let alone not have it repaid. And so they are literally, the Republican Party is literally biting the hands that feed them here in the United States Capitol by playing games with a looming government shutdown. And ironically, many of the members that were wasting time in that impeachment hearing today are the same members that are holding up the votes necessary for us to pass a clean resolution to fund the government while folks settle out their differences. So as to their end game, I think, frankly, some of them just want to file a motion to vacate against Speaker McCarthy, and they think that if you shut down a government, create a crisis, then you can try to file a motion to vacate their own Speaker of the House, Republican Speaker of the House. But beyond that, it's very difficult to try to understand what the end game here is.